Dear students, how do you do? I hope you are keeping safe at home, and you know that the situation is very crucial because the whole world is attacked by COVID-19. It is a pandemic disease all over the world, and also our country is facing the difficulties of this disease. Dear students, I advise you to keep safe yourself from all kinds of germs, because you know that COVID-19, the germs of COVID-19 flow through wind, and that's why you should keep your body by washing your hands again and again, and use hand sanitizer if necessary, and you must wear mask when you go out of home. And secondly, I will advise you to practice our national anthem, because it bears our identity, bears the identity of our independence. You know that every country should have national anthem of its own, and so you know that we have also national anthem, and as all the education institutions are closed, and that's why we cannot arrange assembly, and so you should do practice reciting this song, and also you should sing this song staying at home. So dear learners, I will not lengthen the topic. I have to take my class. In my today's class, I am going to take tag question for the class of 9, for the class of 10, and it is also important for class 9. So dear learners, I am going to my topic, tag questions. Tag means add something, because when in conversation we want to hear the support of others to attract the attention of the person, and for this purpose we use tag question at the end of the statement. So dear learners, tag question is a kind of short question which is written at the end of the sentence. And now I am going to give an example of tag question at first. Dear learners, have a look an example on the blackboard. He is a poet. He is a poet. It is a sentence, and at the end of the sentence you should look the tag question. There is a tag question, because isn't he is a tag question, because the person is talking about a poet. He is a poet, and the person wants to hear the attention of the other person, and that's why he has used a tag question at the end of the statement. Actually, when we go to tag question, we should keep some items of using tag questions. At first, in every tag question we should have knowledge of auxiliary verb, because in every tag question we write auxiliary verb and subject in tag question. Auxiliary verb must be written, so we should have know the use of auxiliary verb. Do you know how many kinds of auxiliary verb? Auxiliary verb is times there are so many auxiliary verbs in English grammar, and in total maybe it has 24 or 25 auxiliary verbs in English grammar, and these auxiliary verbs are called operator in the case of tag questions. And you know that tag question is an important part of English grammar, and this grammar bears 5 marks in English second paper. Okay, dear learners, and in tag question we should keep in mind, if the statement is the sense of affirmative, he is a poet, this sentence is affirmative. When sentence is affirmative, tag question will be in negative, isn't it? When sentence is affirmative, tag question must be in negative, and if tag statement is negative, tag question should be in affirmative. And I am giving an example of negative sentence. Dear learners, there is a sentence on the blackboard. He is not a spy. The sentence is negative, and that's why the tag question is here positive. Is he? When there is negative in assertive sentence, the tag question will be affirmative. And you must keep in mind the subject. We know there are so many subjects. Other subjects may be noun, may be pronoun, not a matter. But when we do tag question, we must use the pronoun form of the subject. Suppose I am giving an example. Alon was present. Dear learners, Alon was present. Alon is a subject and it is noun. It is noun. But in tag question, Alon should not be written. Instead of noun, we must write the pronoun form of subject. As Alon is a person of a boy, and that's why we use he. When masculine gender, we use he, and when the subject is feminine gender, we use she. And when subject is plural, we can write they, and when subject is an object, subject is it does not indicate any man or human being, it indicates anything or any lower animal, we must use it. Okay, dear learners, and that's why we use here he instead of Alon, because Alon here is noun, and instead of noun we must write the pronoun form of the subject. Okay, dear learners, and you should keep in mind the other rule is at the end of the tag question we must use interrogatory marks or note of interrogation. It is note of interrogation or interrogatory marks at the end of the tag question. Okay, dear learners. Now I am showing you some contraction form of negative tag question. Some contraction form, such as Dear learners, I have written some example of contraction form of negative operator such as am not. Am not must be ain't or aren't. Is not, isn't. Cannot, can. Must not, mustn't. Will not, won't. Shall not, shan't. Do not, don't. Does not, doesn't. And in this way we have to complete the tag question in negative way. When we need negative tag question, we must use contraction form of this operator. Okay, dear learners, now I am giving you showing you some rules, special rules of tag question. When we want to make tag question of imperative sentence, there are some rules of using tag question. Such as at first, speak the truth. Dear learners, look at the blackboard. I have written an example of imperative sentence such as you speak the truth. This is an example of imperative sentence. And when there is imperative sentence, we will write tag question will you. Okay, dear learners, will you or won't you. You may choose among the two. You may write here will you or won't you. There is no problem in imperative sentence. Next one, let him do the work. Let him do the work. This is here also an example of imperative sentence. The imperative sentence starts with let. And in this case, we will also write will you. Will you or won't you, no problem. But when we write down letters, what is the rule? Such as let us play football. Let us play football. This is an example of imperative sentence, and this sentence starts with let us. When imperative sentence we start with let us, the tag question will be shall we. Shall we. This is something different from the above tag question. Here the sentence starts with let us, and so we have used here shall. Okay, let us or let's, not the difference. They are the same. Let's, such as let's plant trees. Let's plant trees. This is an example of let us. And let us and let's is not different. Let us and let's are the same. So we can here write down the same rule of shall we. Okay, dear learners, let us and let's is not a problem. In the sentence we must use shall we. In the case of let us or let's. Okay, dear students, and now I am giving another type of rule. Dear learners, let's have an example on the blackboard. Everybody likes an honest man. Here is an example of assertive sentence, but this sentence starts with everybody. Dear learners, if the sentence starts with everybody, everyone, nobody, no one, all, in this case we should write the subject they instead of everybody. When everybody, everyone, everybody, everyone, nobody, no one, none, all. The subject should be they. Everybody, everyone, nobody, no one, none, all. In this case, in the tag question, the subject will be they instead of the subjects. Isn't it, the learners? Then we can write here, don't they. Don't they, because this sentence is assertive. Affirmative, and so we have to use negative tag, and that's why we use here don't. And why we use don't here? Because there is no auxiliary verb, and you must bear in mind if there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence, and in that case we have to use don't, doesn't, and didn't. Don't, doesn't, or didn't. If sentence is present, we use don't and doesn't. If sentence is present, don't or doesn't. And if sentence is past form, we must use didn't instead of past tense. And as the sentence is present, and that's why we should use don't or doesn't. And as the subject is they, it is the subject, and this subject is plural, and in case of plural subject we must use don't, and in case of singular subjects of third person, we must use doesn't. Okay, dear learners, now I am giving another example of this rule. Such as, dear learners, let's have a look on the blackboard. I have written another example of the same rule. None can bear such an insult. Here the sentence is started with subject none, and in my previous talking I told you about the functions of tag questions such as everybody, everyone, nobody, no one, none, all. In this case, the subject must be they. Here also the sentence starts with none, and that's why we can use here they instead of none. And none is a negative word, and that's why we should use here positive tag question. And we can write can they? Can they? Because the subject is negative and that side the tag must be positive. Okay, dear students. Now I am giving you another type of example, rules of tag question, such as dear learners, have a look on the blackboard another type of example. I have written here a sentence such as he hardly comes here. This is an example of tag question. He hardly comes here, and I have used in this sentence hardly. And dear learners, look at the next bulletin point such as hardly, seldom, scarcely, rarely, barely, few, little. There are so many words, and these words are usually negative words. And if there is any negative word such like them in the sentence, then we must write positive tag. We cannot write any negative tag in this case, because there is the word hardly is a negative word and it indicates negative idea of something, and that's why we can write here positive tag. Because he hardly comes here, because he actually does not come here, because he comes sometimes but not all the times, and that's why it indicates negative idea, and that's why we must write here positive tag. And we can write here comes is a principal verb and it indicates the present indefinite tense, and in the case of present indefinite tense we must use some auxiliary verbs such as doesn't and don't. As the verb is singular verb and at the end of the verb there is yes, and if there is singular verb adding yes or yes, and in this case we must use doesn't. Okay, dear learners, doesn't, but we cannot use here doesn't because this sentence is negative, and also we can use does. Okay, dear learners, if there is no hardly, we can write here doesn't, but hardly is a negative word, and that's why we must use the tag in positive sense, and that's why we have used here does instead of comes, because comes is third person singular number verb, and for this purpose we should use here does. Okay, dear learners, and now I am giving another example using this rule. Dear learners, have a look. An example on the blackboard I have written, I have few problems. It is also an example of this rule because I have used here few. Few is a negative word. Few is a negative word. And that's why my tag person will be positive. And I may write here haven't I. Sorry, have I. Have I. As the sentence is negative, and that's why we must keep the right tag person in positive form. So I may write here have I. But if I give an example of using the same word few, then what should I do? Like he planted a few trees. He planted a few trees. Here, dear students, I have used a before few, and you must keep in mind about few and leading. If there is article before few and little, then it indicates affirmative sense. It is not negative now. It is now affirmative because there is article before few. So dear learners, if few adds article before it, this sentence will be an affirmative sentence, and in this case we must write here negative tag, and we can write here planted is the past tense. Planted is past tense, and that's why we must write here didn't and subject. Dear learners, if there is no article, then we will write did because few is negative, but a few is positive. Little is negative, but a little is positive. Suppose there is a little water. There is a little water. Some problems, friends. Dear learners, there is also an example. There is a little water in the pond. Dear learners, notice here. Little, before little there is an article, and if article adds with little or few, it is affirmative sentence, and that's why we must write here positive tag, negative tag, such as isn't there. Dear learners, if the subject is there, we must use the subject in the tag person. And another example. Dear learners, there is little water in the pond, and I have not used here any article like the above sentence. I only use here little, and little is negative word, and that's why the tag will be positive, such as is there. Okay, dear learners, this is some types of examples of this above rules. Okay. Now I am giving another example. another rules. Dear learners, let's have an example on the blackboard. I have written another sentence such as the unfed should be fed. Dear learners, you must notice here. I have used the before the adjective. This is the adjective, and this is article the. If the plus adjective is equal to plural subject, is equal to plural subject. The plus adjective is equal to plural subject, and they will be plural common noun, because the unpaid is not a single person, but it is the plural subject, and as plural subject we may use they, and that's why we must write here student. As the sentence is affirmative, so we must write student they, in the sense of the plus adjective. If the subject is the plus adjective, we must use they at as the subject. Okay, dear learners, now I am showing you another rules. Dear students, I have written three phrases like all of us, all of them, all of you. This is the phrase, and the first phrase is all of us, and if the subject is all of us, we may write that question as the subject all of us, we may write we. And if all of them, we may write they. And if all of you, we may write you. Okay, dear learners, if the sentence starts with this phrase, we must write down the subject in the positive, in the tag person, such as Dear learners, all of us joined the meeting. Here the subject is all of us. Yes, this subject is a combined subject. It is also called phrase, all of us. And if the sentence starts with the phrase all of us, we must write here we instead of all of us. And joined is a past form, and so we may write here didn't we. Okay, dear learners, that's all from me today. I hope I will meet you with another type of grammatical item. And again I will advise you to keep sound and safe staying at home, and I must join you with another type of important grammatical class. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Thank you.